Oh, we are good to go.
All right, well, thank you all for coming. This is 4:03, and we're starting the variance hearing submitted by the Hayhurst regarding the property at 1335 South Eagle Nest Drive. I believe we have Ren here, and then just for the record, everyone go around, kind of introduce yourselves.
Corporate students, City of Woodland Hills.
Awesome.
Wayne Franson, Woodland Hills.
Craig Northup, Woodland Hills Fire.
Chris Milligan, just the president.
Just participant, that's perfectly fine. This is a public meeting and people are welcome to come and watch. How I will be running this, I'm gonna go over kind of my background, what I've understood it. I might be getting some things wrong, so we're gonna have a conversation. I'll kind of go over what we're here for, what the standard is. I will invite the applicant to present your side, tell your story, explain what we're here to do, what you want me to take a decision on. And then we will proceed from there. We may have a site visit. You asked for that. And I believe it's pretty close by, so we might invite everyone to hop in your cars and trucks and go drive over there, see the site. And then we'll come back here for any closing considerations. I likely will not be making a decision immediately today. I probably will take a week or so to make a written decision that addresses all the things and then get that out to everyone. So this is a variance standard or a variance hearing. Variances under state law and city code are a very specific type of thing. My job as an appeal authority is not to change the code, nor is it to necessarily decide what even is good for a particular property. My job is to interpret what the city's code is and apply it. And in this case, it's to decide whether under the 5 factors set out in state code and city code, a variance, a change in the normal requirements of the city code is merited. The city and state code, they mirror each other. A variance can only be granted in certain circumstances. It's an and test. You have to meet 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in order to get it. And those standards involve showing first that there's an unreasonable hardship with that enforcement of the city's code as written causes unreasonable hardship for the applicant that's not necessary to carry out the purpose of the land use ordinance, the city zoning code, in this case, mostly setback regulations. Importantly, state law says, and city code also says, me as the appeal authority, I cannot find there's an unreasonable hardship if it is economic or self-imposed. That is a requirement straight from state law. I don't have a lot of leeway there. The next factor is special circumstances of the property. Basically show that for some reason, there's something special about this property that makes the code as applied not workable. Then you show that the change requested is essential to the enjoyment of a substantial property right. And then the last two deal with, if we grant this variance, we're not really going to impact the whole purpose of the zoning code at large, meaning we're not going to have a major impact on the general plan and public interest. And we're still going to observe the spirit of the land use ordinance and carry out substantial justice. So those are the standards that you get to address, Mr. Hayhurst. I get to review that in accordance with state law. Here's what I understand. Again, I may be wrong in this. I've read everything that has been submitted to me, unless you sent it in the last hour. But we have a lot residential single family within the city's R1-2 PUD zone. Under that zone, there's setback requirements for front, side, rear yards. Because this is a corner lot, city code says your front and side are the same. The standard for that is 50, but it can be adjusted by the planning commission as they approve a plat for a lesser amount. Then there are certain setbacks applicable to accessory buildings, and I've reviewed the plat. It looks like we have a larger setback front and side. That's just me. And a smaller, you have a normal side setback on the eastern side of the property, and the south is a bit, looks like a 15-foot setback. And the question we're dealing with is they're having an accessory structure, a greenhouse trying to be put in that, based on the locations, doesn't meet some of those setback requirements. Potentially, this is where I'm a little unclear, and so I'd love to have a conversation on this. There's also an issue that got raised by the planning commission chair regarding accessory structures near the main dwelling, where if they're within a certain amount of feet, it's considered part of the main dwelling, subject to the main dwelling setbacks. And if it's not, then you follow the accessory structure. So that's kind of my understanding of the background. Is it, I think in your application, you stated that there was one site that got approved.
Yes,
So a greenhouse site has been approved
Correct.
for one location. You prefer it to be in, you have a few different options that you would prefer it to be at.
yes,
But all of those other options are where we're coming into the setback issue, is that right?
that is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Awesome, so we have the plat here, we're lot 124 down here, we could scooch it down just a smidge. So then my understanding of the history, again, feel free to correct me. This looks like it's a 50-foot setback, which is the standard PUD zoning setback. But there was a variance granted to the prior owners of the property, and variances run with the land, so they continue on. That adjusted this one along, I think it's now called Cougar Run. To a 30-foot setback rather than a 50-foot setback.
40, yeah, it's
So it's
40.
40.
So
Okay.
it's 40 feet, yeah.
The
variance was granted to 40 feet.
30.
No, it's 40.
I went back through the June 15th, 2016 minutes of the variance form. It's the same one that Ted Mickelson asked for 131, was a 30-foot. Now, whether they're that close to the property line is another issue, but the variance did allow them to be at 30.
So
The final, maybe where I'm getting confused, and this may be my terminology. The final structure, as we reviewed it, Jody, it shows the actual physical distance is 40 feet. So the variance very well could be 30 feet.
So variance might have been granted, it sounds like it was based on city records,
Yes.
up to 30 feet, which is, sounds like that's actually the minimum under city code that you could adjust these RPUD setbacks to be. Basically said you can go up to 30 feet, the property owner chose to build at 40 feet.
Right.
So that is permitted, so we have a 40-foot, 30-foot setback. He's making notes, Cougar Run, building's actually at 40 feet. So. That's this one, and I guess Jody, on that variance, was that for just structures, was the setback
For structures.
just for structures, so. Great, so that's just all. Structures,
It was when they applied for their home and they wanted to be able to build their home closer to that side.
okay, so that was for the home. I think it is. The way this might work, okay, so let's go through, and maybe you can address the options we have,
Sure.
what you're looking to do, so I can understand those, so why don't you just, and anything else you want to address that I might have gotten wrong, feel free to
Okay.
chime in.
I have an extra copy here of the actual
That'd be
layout.
awesome, have it electronically, but.
Right. So I don't want to hover.
No, you're fine,
But
hover away.
okay, so the front of the house here faces south.
Okay,
And so here's the rear of the house and that faces north. So what's been approved is what we call the brow.
right,
It's kind of a raised area that then falls off here towards Eagle Nest and around Cougar Road.
okay,
So the current approved site is right here on the right,
it's in there,
and it has no variance, needs no variance.
brow location approved, no variance, got it.
Where we are proposing and where we are asking for the variance
is to put it at the rear of the house.
Okay,
This is an open, exposed area. There's a nice, we call it the meadow, but it's a stand of trees.
right,
And we would have to remove about half of those. Okay. This location in the back, where we're asking, it's 20 feet for an accessory building. And we're asking for no fewer than a 5-foot variance, no more than a 10-foot variance to build it closer to Cougar Run. Okay,
the variance is short, you want to get closer to Cougar Run.
that's correct. And this site for us is the desired site because we would not have to remove any natural vegetation. It sits below our house, so it would not be in anybody's sideline. It would have access, direct access to the home. And if, as you'll see in the site visit, it fits into the natural topography.
Okay,
So that's, this shows actually where it would. And it shows that 15-foot instead of 20-foot.
and so is this, I'm seeing this here, is this actually 20 feet from the main dwelling?
Correct.
Okay, so that one proposed site, 20 feet from main dwelling, so that. So you're back to the accessory setbacks.
Correct. Correct. And so it would only be the property line is where we're seeking the variance.
So you had some other proposals, I think, around here on the kind of eastern side.
No,
Are those, okay,
yeah,
I might have just understood.
yeah, we never had a map for anything on the eastern side. It was, this was the primary, we did submit an alternative for the brow.
Okay, and the brow is approved and that, and I guess from the city side, that brow location, does that remain approved? I assume there's no problems, it hasn't been revoked or anything.
None, I haven't received any notice. Yes,
So the brow location still remains approved. Okay. So as I understand the city's code, we have. Not worried about the setback in the main dwelling issue, so that code section isn't really that applicable. Is the accessory structure under or over 200 square feet?
it's over 200 square feet.
Okay.
It is a glass greenhouse. And it will have electricity and water, and it will sit on a cement pad.
So for 200. So normal setbacks, as I understand them, for accessory buildings over 200 square feet, normally it's 30 from the front. It's 5 unless you're along the road, so then it's 30, so you're along the road. Rear is 10. But then there's the code that talks about corner lots. Basically, you apply the same front and side wherever there's a corner.
Right, and that would not be, the brow's on the corner, so this would just be against Cougar Run, it's not on the corner.
It's on the corner, but the lot is a corner lot.
Correct.
So we have a 30-foot setback, I think is the requirement. Is that, do you agree with that or do you not agree with that? What do you understand the setback
Yes,
to be?
we understand the setback to be, and I've looked it up and I put it in our materials,
Yeah.
20 feet for the accessory building to the road. And that is section, I was trying to look up my notes here
Yes.
from my letter, but it's section 10(9)B, I believe.
I was looking at city code section 1011(2)B.
Oh, that, okay.
Is that it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Can you pull up 211? Yeah, is it possible to bring up that code section?
Yeah.
2B.
Oh, it's not gonna be,
It's gonna be 10(11)(2)B.
but it's gonna be in the website because
Yeah.
codification. And it won't be updated on theirs yet, that's the problem.
Okay, see.
You think it's gonna be on there?
That's 10(11)(2)B.
So we have, so that's 2A, and then go down, I think one more table. Yeah, that's. It, so what am I, this is. My understanding, we have R2 PUD, which is what this thing, this property is zoned as.
Right,
Front yard 30, side yard 5, side yard abutting road also 30, I guess.
then we have.
Are you reading this as this is the rear yard abutting road?
Correct. You're right. It would be the rear yard. If you look at the front of the house, which is defined as where the front door is, that is on Eagle Nest. So directly opposite that on Cougar Run is the rear or the northern portion of the property. And so as I read it, it's rear yard abutting road 20 feet.
So. Have discrepancy there. I'm not sure how much that actually matters because regardless, the building doesn't meet either 20 or 30.
Correct.
You need a setback either way.
Correct.
It just, I guess, changes how much setback. I don't think that's that significant to do the 5 or 15. Regardless, it's still a setback. So to mean that location that's proposed. Right. Going through I had several questions I wanted to make sure I understood. That one's been answered. Answered. Oh, yeah, that shows it very nicely. Showing. So then this is the route
Approved.
location that is approved.
Correct.
This is the one you would like it to be back here.
Correct.
And that's the setback, that is the issue. So. And I'll be very transparent, this is where I'm struggling to see the variance, and I'd like you to really address this to help me understand. State code says unreasonable hardship cannot be self-imposed, cannot be economic. As I look at this, I see you have a greenhouse that is approved and can be built. You would prefer it to be somewhere else. Explain to me how that's not a self-imposed or an economic issue.
Okay, well, I do want to clarify, and I think I submitted you some information on this under some case law, that it can't be purely economic. But economics can, if you decide that it's relevant, be taken into factors. So we're not relying on this for any major economic purpose. It really, the hardship is, as we've defined it, is that it's putting it in a location that would essentially, I don't want to say make it an eyesore, but it would impose upon our neighbors. And it would require actually a removal of a fair amount of natural woodland. And so the hardship is to completely change, that area of the topography and change the natural vegetation. And I think it's in the best interest of the community that we don't do those things if it's possible. And that we build it in a way that fits the land, does not impose any site restrictions or limitations on anybody who might build across from us. And would fit into the natural wood and be hidden in effect. And when we go up there, you'll see it really completely removes it. And we're going to put trees behind it against Cougar Run. So it will be as invisible as we can make it. And so the hardship is changing the topography, changing the natural vegetation, and creating a potential burden for our neighbors around us.
And potential burden on neighbors. I remember I read through there's potential issue with drainage, there's a visual kind of eyesore type thing.
Yes.
Any other impacts on neighbors?
That's really it. Yeah, I'll be fair and honest. We're not claiming it can't be built someplace else.
Right.
We are claiming that to do that, it would be a substantial change in the use of our property. that we think can be accommodated with this variance. We can avoid all of that. So that really is the purpose.
I very much appreciate that. And I have read through those cases and I will, before I make a decision, I'll read through them all again, make
Yeah.
sure I fully kind of internalize that as part of this decision.
And I think what I shared with the material I sent you last week was that case that does talk about being consistent with the overall community, that it is not creating any unnatural use, that it is consistent with like I said, the topography and the natural state of the property. The case that I cited had to deal with up in Little Cottonwood Canyon. And so some of the same issues we're facing, and that variance was granted, and then an environmental group is what challenged it. And so there were an additional 5 factors that had to do with a mountain community that we felt were particularly helpful in describing what our proposal was and our thinking behind it.
And you do raise something I would like you to maybe address further as well. One of those 5 in state law is special circumstances with the property.
Right.
You mentioned topography. It looks like the property is a corner lot that has some angles to it. What's unique about the property that makes kind of your preferred site, more necessary, I guess, if that makes sense.
Well, I think one thing is that as you go to that corner lot, it raises an elevation. The natural grade of the property raises elevation, and it's roughly 5 foot above where the natural, grade point is, where the house is actually built. So this greenhouse will be 11 feet high. So it still fits the height limitations, but it effectively will be 16 feet above the rest of the front and side part of the property. And that's where we are concerned about blocking views from people who, the lots across from us, with one exception, have not been built on. But this certainly could create a burden for those individuals. And so that is a unique feature of the lot, how it rises up, and then you put a 11-foot structure on it, and all of a sudden it starts to then really be something that affects sightlines and such. Whereas the back of the house actually slopes down, and there's a little hollow area, and that's where the greenhouse would go. So it really is the exact opposite situation, and that's what we would argue makes it the best location for the entire area.
Is there any concern that's been raised, at least to you or by anyone at the city side, regarding site triangles for that intersection there, regarding where the approved location is? I assume not. It's pretty far
it's
back.
far enough back from that corner.
And are there any HOA or conservation easement type things restricting vegetation, natural vegetation, or requirements to maintain things in place? Anything of that nature on your property?
No, not that I'm aware of, although I know that the city does take an interest in preserving natural,
Certainly,
deer
yes.
runs and paths and things like this. And again, if we tear out those trees, it will interfere with a natural area where the wildlife go. And you can't see with the snow, unfortunately, but you could otherwise see the pathways. And we have our neighbor here, and you probably noticed we have a little deer path between our houses. So it is an active corner in terms of the creatures.
Yeah, we just missed the lack of snow by a couple of days.
Yeah.
Sure. I think majority of my questions have been answered. Is there anything else you'd like to present or want me to know or hear before we go out and maybe look at the site?
No, I mean, I tried to really lay it out in the written materials, so I don't want to repeat those. for you, because I know you've
I have read
paid
it.
attention to them.
I
Yeah,
will read them again.
no, but I very much appreciate that. And so it really was just to try to communicate what underlies and what we believe are the factors that we would want to have considered in granting this variance.
Okay. Is there anything from the city side you'd like me to understand, and then I'll allow you to respond if they bring up something, but anything else I should understand or know about this lot or the approval process?
Not what I'm worried.
I don't know about the lot. I guess my only concern is the high standard the variance has to meet in order to be approved. And of course, that's all on you and looking at that and making determinations and analysis and assessments from the information that everybody is submitting. So.
I appreciate that, and you can comment on that if you would like.
Oh, and I have here Eric Smith, who is the actual contractor that will be building this.
I've been putting these drawings together for the last month, trying to.
Yes.
One of the things though is on this lot that's unique is. It's not like we've got 20 different locations to work with. We've tried laying it out in every possible location that there is. And there's literally one spot that works, which is that corner spot. And like Ren said, the only reason that we even want to move it is it's substantial vegetation coming out there. It's not like 2 trees, but it is substantial. Where that area below is 2 small 1.5-inch caliper trees. I mean, it just plops right in there. So from that standpoint, an engineering standpoint, it just, to us, it made sense to have it off the back of the home.
Appreciate that insight. Anything else for me? And I'll review the recording before I make my decision as well. It sounds like I've kind of heard everything that people want to present. I wouldn't mind going to go see the site and
Okay.
see that in person. This is a site visit, so under the Utah Public Meetings Act, we're allowed to do site visits. And we would invite everyone in the public to come and visit. We're not going to be taking any action or making any decision, but anyone is welcome to come see that. And then I'll briefly, I think, reconvene, take any last comments, and then we'll be done with the hearing for the day. Unless there's any other comments or objections anyone would like to make now. I think we're good, so let's go to that site visit. We're gonna go see the lot and the home.
Okay.
Not the home, I don't need to go inside your house.
Okay. And my wife has been ill, but she will join us outside and wear her mask and be appropriate.
You need this screen.
I do not.
I have some notes.
Great, thank you. We're back in the variance hearing. We just took a quick site visit. I saw the brow location up on the side of the corner of the 2 roads, and then saw down, didn't walk down. It's a bit muddy and snowy, didn't want to slip. I saw the desired location. So I think it's been helpful to see more on, rather than on a flat map, but the actual topography of the site. So at this point, I don't have any other questions, but is there anything else that's come to either the city or to the applicant's mind you'd like to share before I close this and then start working on my decision?
I would just close with 3 thoughts. One is, I know this is a new process for the city of having one of these hearings. And I felt it's been very fair. And, I know as the city continues to grow, I just want to thank you and everybody else for a fair process. And I felt like everybody listened and took seriously this proposal. So I'm grateful for that. That's number 1. Number 2, I just want to emphasize that the distance from the road, from the property line, will be 15 feet. So I just want to make sure it's clear that we're not trying to put it on the road or very, very close to the road. It still will be 15 feet from our property line, and then there's an 8-foot setback for that irrigation ditch that we put in that the city requires. So that's not our property, but we're improving it with that ditch, which you have to do up here. So you may have noticed all the rocks in front of everybody.
I did notice that, yes.
So it'll be 8 feet and then 15, so 23 feet from the physical road, but 15 feet from the property line. And then I was grateful that we had a neighbor attend, and we do have the support of our neighbors, and I know you got a chance to speak with them, but if you wanted anything in writing, we've talked to the neighbors and they would be willing and pleased to say, at least for them, that they think this is the best solution. So in terms of, again, trying to be part of the community and make it work, we have canvassed our neighbors. We've gone to that effort, and I'm grateful that they've been supportive too.
And I know that you had one of those neighbors, that your immediately adjacent neighbor was present at the hearing today and expressing support of the requested variance.
So that would be it, other than just thank everybody for the time.
All right, well, thank you. And anyone from the city, any other comments? Not that you need to have.
Probably should clarify, it shouldn't change your outcome, but clarifying, if you look at the plat map, the front of the house is from Cougar Run. So,
Call that the front of the building envelope.
Yeah, the house may front on Eagle Nest, but that's a side.
like I said, I just want to clarify for your information, so when you're given the variance, it's on the proper side, or you at least list the proper side of the home. Because the original front was on Elk Point Circle.
If this, so Clark's got a front yard setback variance to this front yard. And the side opposite is the 30-foot rear setback. So if this is the front, this is the rear, this is a street side, and that's an interior side. But the minutes are clear that the Clark's got a front yard setback variance.
Now they flipped their house around, so
But city code also doesn't care how you orient the home. The recorded plat is what governs. But you can orient, I mean, you see houses all the time, not all the time, but you see houses where the front door faces somebody else's side yard.
And I know there's been some, and I'll allow you to respond to that, don't worry. I know I think the applicant has kind of disputed that. My understanding is either way, I know you want it to be clear, but I just want to make sure I understand. Either way, the variance is needed, even if, you know, I was to accept the applicant's interpretation of the code, he still requires a variance, still can't build the location on where he wants to without that variance, even if we were to accept. Is that still correct?
Yes.
The
But
only
wait,
one
But
that-
you want to be clear that
in your terminology and understanding,
Well, that's not correct, because that one on the brow could be done.
yeah, the brow can be done, but the proposed location of the side cannot be, regardless of whether, I guess, the one here, regardless of whether that's considered a side or the front, a variance is required because it's either a 15-foot variance or 5-foot variance in the setback. But I don't know, you want it to be clear that the city is saying the front is the one that fronts on what's now Cougar Run based on the plat, and the plat is what controls in terms of siting buildings. Not that you're not required to locate your building with your front facing what the plat calls the front, but that's what it controls. And that's the city's. Okay.
yeah,
and then would it be two variances that you're issuing, one that's closer to the home? And then closer within the setbacks?
My understanding is that it's 20 feet away from the home. It showed that on the.
Yeah, we're not, yeah, we don't need to seek for the back, correct?
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
you wanted to.
So
I thought it was.
it would, yeah, it would just be
It's just the.
Yeah.
To the road setback or the property line setback. And I also.
yeah.
Is this the option, is this the option that you're going with?
Option number one. That's what we're seeking the variance for.
But that's closer than 20 feet to the structure.
Well,
They
we,
showed a site plan that showed 20 feet.
that's right. And we've submitted that and the city has
20 feet
that.
away from the.
20 feet away from the main.
From the home structure, correct?
I have not been asked to make that variance, so if I were to grant this, it would be based on the proposal where it's 20 feet away from the main dwelling. And I'm saying granting, but if I were to grant it, it would be based on that
Right.
representation.
My question then is, if it's 20 feet from the main dwelling, then it would have to, and it's a 16.5 inch wide.
16 foot 4 inch.
Okay, greenhouse, you're at 36.4 from the home. And if there's only 40 to the.
If this
property
line
line,
here, if this is the property line
then we're
right
only
there,
4 feet from that.
and you've only got 40 feet to this line right here. If the structure,
We'll rest on the map that we've submitted, yeah, because this doesn't have all of the measurements.
I mean, what I would do if I were to grant this variance, I would say I would still have to, I would not be granting a variance on anything else, it would just be on the setback. So if that were granted, they would still have to come in and get approval of a specific site that still complies with every other requirement of city code, including distance from home and everything else. So if you have other issues that get raised, you handle those as those, if that plan is able to be submitted. So what I've seen is they're only asking for the one, they show me a map that says they can do it with 20 feet, so I'm gonna take that as what the facts of this case are, and then just decide the requested variance. And if you'd like to respond to that, a matter regarding the front and side, I'd allow you to. I know you've already kind of responded, I don't need you to repeat if you don't want to.
I don't need to repeat that. There are cases that say that the front of the home is where the front door is.
Yes. Is there any other final comments you'd like to make?
No.
Okay, and then I think with that, this hearing will be closed. I will issue a decision as soon as possible. I know people don't like waiting, so as soon as I can, it'll be written. I'll issue it out to everyone and then also explain the right to appeal if someone disagrees with my decision. So thank you all for coming. I do appreciate all your hard work, and especially your written submissions is very professionally done, and I do appreciate it.